Hello buddy, San here, engineer, MBA, and investor. And in today's video, I want to talk about the CEO of Moderna selling their stocks and also deleting their Twitter account. I want to talk about all of that in this video. Now, before we jump into today's video, you guys know the drill. Like this video, smash that like button, destroy that like button. If you've not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Do subscribe, really to help the channel. And if you have any comments, input, feedback, leave it in the comment section below. We try to read and respond to every single comment. So this news broke out yesterday. Moderna CEO Vincent Stéphane sells 400 million shares and deletes Twitter account. Right. So if we scroll down a little bit here, it says the Moderna CEO deletes Twitter account and sells 400 million worth of shares, mRNA shares, as does Noubar Afeyan, another Moderna co-founder who has dumped shares for $1.5 billion. So, and then you have a tweet here from an individual on Twitter that got a lot of likes here. The head of Moderna, Stéphane Bancel, has deleted his Twitter account as it appears over the past 2 years. On a weekly basis, Bancel has dumped Moderna stock. He's now cashed out $100 million and he sold about 20 million worth of shares in 2022. If we clear a little bit down here, we see days after Pfizer admitted a safety audit that could wipe out $1 billion off their stock market valuation, Moderna CEO Stéphane Bancel dumped $100 million of shares and deleted their Twitter account. Stéphane Bancel, the billionaire CEO of Moderna, has deleted their Twitter account. Why? Right, so that is the big question why, and I think there's another side of this story, and I'm going to cover both of those sides just shortly. And there's this other Twitter user here that posted, you guys are bad and mad. He's selling 19,000 shares per week, at which rate he'd sell about 1 million shares per year. That's less than 5% of what he owns, not accounting for whatever new option he is granted this year as part of his pay package. As per NASDAQ, as of February 10, he owns 5.7 million shares directly and another 16.1 million shares indirectly. Companies is potentially revolutionary cures for many types of diseases, and you're resorting to pretty political hatchet jobs. So clearly this Dale Gamble here is taking the side of defending Moderna CEO and the company here. And clearly here on the other news site that we saw from this Twitter user Jordan and these other Twitter users, clearly they're attacking the CEO and the company. And before I talk about my inputs here, my thoughts, I do want to remind you guys that Moderna is not just about the vaccine that we've all known about since this pandemic began, but also they're working on several other programs, and notably the one we covered few weeks ago with the HIV vaccine. So this happened late January, and this really broke the news because now you have another player that's actually working on an HIV vaccine. But again, this is specifically with mRNA vaccine, which is what Moderna is most specialized in. And I mean, their stock symbol is literally called mRNA. So clearly they're specialized in mRNA technology. And I've covered that in last summer. If you guys remember that, we covered a podcast where it was sort of titled from Business Insider, I believe, and it was titled as Moderna has a platform, right? So they're sort of positioning themselves to become a platform. Moderna, the biotech company, the vaccine company that most of you know today, but they're clearly a biotech company with all these programs they're working on. So here are my thoughts, right? First of all, I would argue that I actually understand individuals stating these types of regards about Moderna's leadership selling shares. It looks bad. I actually shared that thought there. I share that idea because whenever you have leaderships of companies, specifically the co-founder as well and the current CEO selling these types of worth of shares, like $1.5 billion worth of share, 400 million worth of shares as up to date. I think it does look bad, and I actually understand why there's a lot of criticism, especially in a time where Moderna actually capitalized from this pandemic, literally capitalized from the pandemic. Governments gave them literally the green light to deploy their vaccines without having it officially FDA approved. And clearly the data from what we've seen so far, it was the right decision to do at the right time back then. But again, they got a lot of grants from governments, from authorities. So clearly here, and this is also governments elected by the people, right? So you got to remember that these are taxes paid by citizens, right? So I sort of understand this frustration from the side of people saying, hey, your stock went all the way up and we paid taxes. We took your vaccines because we were required to do that to have a functioning life. And you're going ahead and selling your stocks on a weekly basis since basically before 2021, which is a total worth of 400 million shares. And you're supposed to be leading this company to do a lot more than just vaccines, right? And the same for the co-founder of Moderna, right? Who's dumped shares worth of $1.5 billion, right? That's even a bigger deal in my opinion, but that's just, I'm just going in a rabbit hole at this point. But the point is that I sort of understand the criticism and I totally understand where people are coming from, and especially the frustration from people, especially people that are against the vaccines. They're looking at this and it's like it's like fuel to the fire, right? They're like, look at these suits and ties, making more money off the average citizen. They're forcing people to take their products and they're basically going ahead and selling their company shares on a weekly basis. But the other side of the token, which I am more lenient towards, because I think a lot of people think that corporate life and being paid like your salary is enough, and I think people sort of omit the idea of a corporate life, of agreements, of contracts, of what it is to be actually a CEO of a company, what it is to actually abide by a contract, respect the contract. And again, we don't know the full details of this. I cannot speak of why he deleted his Twitter account. I'm not even going to speculate on that. I know there was that speculation about Pfizer release of information there just sometime before that, and I'm just going to leave that as a speculation. I'm curious to see what you guys think in the comments below about deleting the Twitter account. But selling the shares, again, like that user stated here that we just took a look at, Dale Gamble, I mean, it is less than 5% of their total shares. I mean, it is a small amount. When you think about it, it is definitely a small amount. Now, whether or not he is eligible to sell those stocks, that is not up to you and me. That is literally up to the law. This is all legal. Everything that he's done so far is legal. There's nothing illegal in terms of selling his shares, because this is the whole point of being a public company and holding shares within. And when you're being employed by that public company, you have to disclose that information, and you can go by certain rules and you have to follow certain schedules and rules, and you can end up selling those shares. And that is part of agreements when you take up those types of positions in companies, right? You're paid a base salary, but then you're paid by what we call a stock compensation base plan, right? So you basically work for that company, you hit milestones, and you get some shares of the company. And then you go through a process to sell those shares. You can't just go to the public market and share them literally a minute after you receive them. It doesn't work like that. You have to go through these regulations that the SEC, that all these regulatory bodies have put in for all companies participating in public markets, at least in US and in Canada. But the point here I'm trying to make is that there's nothing illegal being done here by Marcel Stéphane. I think it is completely legal, and it is his right to sell these stocks, whether it is for tax purposes, whether it is for personal purposes. I don't think that is up to you and me to decide. I think that is their life, that is their family and loved ones that he has to think about, and he's working hard for it. Whether or not you agree with the statement that he's worked hard for it, I think that is definitely subjective. But the point is that he is the CEO of the company that literally produced these vaccines. And I agree with you, although the government and authorities gave them a green light and gave them a lot of funding, especially these types of funding that has led them to capitalize on that, with the co-founder 1.5 billion and with the current CEO with up to 400 million shares worth of shares. The point is that Basel had to work for that, and not just, did any of these guys construct the pandemic? Did any of these guys, start the pandemic. I mean, you can see conspiracy theories and everything, but if you just stick with rationality for just a second, these guys were just called by the moment, right? And these guys were employed by these corporations. At the end of the day, you're employed by a corporation. You work at a corporation. You have stakeholders. You have shareholders to respond to. You work these long hours, these long weekends, and ultimately you get paid with a base salary, which is a big amount. But then you get these shares, and I'm 99% sure that most of you watching this video, including myself, if we were paid by these types of shares, and you need to diversify, right? This is literally the investment number one theory, right? This is number one tip from everybody. Never put all your eggs in one basket. These guys are working long hours in one company. Their image is tied to one company. Their whole reputation is tied to one company, and they're literally working hours and hours, and their whole salary and everything is tied to one company. Why wouldn't you sell less than 5% of your shares? So that's why I sort of take both sides here. I'm curious to see what you guys think. Do you guys agree with this type of move? Are you guys resentful to that? Are you guys completely understandable? What do you guys think? Leave me comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Just wanted to make this video on Moderna CEO selling their stocks once more, a total of up to $400 million of shares, and also deleting their Twitter account. Leave me comments below what you guys think. Like this video if you found value, subscribe if you've not, and thank you so much for watching, and have a beautiful, beautiful Sunday and weekend. Thank you.